Back row minister of the world, Premier Mr. Mahdi coming back at you live and direct. So World War III is on and popping. It's escalated. We're talking about naval naval blockades, which is definitely escalation of war, blocking ships in. America claiming that they have the ability to do this and the ability to do that, which they don't. It's an Indian uh, political sciences who breaks this down. We're still fighting old school war with new school people. You can't fight an old school war with new school people. You just can't do it. They got drones. They got all sorts of stuff. Underwater drones. I hear the Iranians have. We don't have any of that stuff. Remember, I was in the military. We don't have none of that stuff. So we are behind the curve because education wise, we're behind the curve. Remember the Chinese, their goal over the next 5 years is to pump out fresh new engineers. We don't do that. We don't stress education to make ourselves better. We don't stress anything to make ourselves better. And that's the problem in America. Our goal needs to be moving forward as Americans. What are we going to create? Because right now we're creating nothing. And Trump is the trumpet of revelation because he's destroying the Babylon or destroying what America was. And some things need to die. I think to be reborn, a thing needs to die. And we see the battle between good and evil in the way and form of religion. And I've said the Catholic Church is going to play a big part in this, and we're seeing the 3-1-2 with the Chicago Pope. And remember, for those that used to receive education from Brother Yahi, he talked about how Chicago was going to be ground zero, and we see the 3-1-2 coming back in play in the form of the Pope. We talk about the opening up of portals to allow their demonic entity in. And now we're seeing the light and dark battle take place. Good versus evil in a sense. Religious and satanic warfare. And for those that don't understand it, MAGA is the highest level of the Church of Satan. That's why you're seeing this, the Pope versus Trump, because Trump is representing Satan in a way. He's representing the Antichrist in a way. We got the religious right, the religious Christian right about to make their move with Marjorie Taylor Greene and American First Party. So you're going to see a lot of things coming after the end of this war and during this war. You're going to see a lot of things coming. But we got the blockade in effect. The Iranians are playing their part and their part in their new world order with Russia, Iran, and China. Hit Iranians using the term 47, talking about how it was 47 years prior to when they first last negotiated with Americans. And that was the time, during our Iran-Contra scandal, for those who remember, when we gave Iran all those weapons for the hostages. So, even they're using that terminology. So checkerboard boys, like we say, are universal. And they all have their own chaotic agenda to create these new orders. So this is the chaos to create the new order in that region of West Asia where Iran or the Persians, who they are, the Pakistanis, the Iranians, even the Saudis who don't want to be Persians, and the Qatarians are Persians. The Persians are about to take over. You'll see them make some form of deal. Saudi is trying to hold on to old money, which is oil, because that's all they got. And the Iranians are trying to move into the future. The future is nuclear fusion to power vehicles, to light up regions, be more effective with the use of it, where it's enriched to the point where it's not as dangerous and you can safely enrich it because it's still a very unstable set of chemicals. We use it in submarines. We use it in carriers. So it can be turned into healthy forms of fuel. It's such a volatile chemical. It's not ready to be placed in a car as of yet. So we're a long way from that. We ain't even start messing with hydrogen as a way of creating energy. So we got a lot of healthy energy sources that people are going to start working on. And you got a lot of Iranian scientists who've been working on the enrichment of uranium for a long period, mastering it as a new form of fuel for transportation. So why is that important? 2035 in New Jersey, for those that don't know, there's going to be a mandate where cars can't There's going to be no more gas cars sold by 2035 as far as new vehicles. By 2035, any vehicle sold must be electric. So what does this mean? So as I said, we talked about this a while ago when Biden was pushing for the 2033 mandate. It's actually 2030. They pushed it back to 33. New Jersey and some other folks pushed it back to 35. So by 2035, you got to be out of you won't be able to buy any more gas cars. So that's 9 years. 9 years you have. So how do they get people out of these gas cars? They have to create a scenario. So chaos. What's the chaos? Fighting over oil or old money, like I said in the last video. Petrodollar pretty much dying. You got to have a mastery of the new energy source. You got to be able to build these power stations. So a lot of that oil that's used got to go into the powering of these power stations so you can power the electric form of transportation that the world is going to start utilizing moving forward. So they got to get you out of that. So what's the best way of getting you out of that? Jack up the price of gas. Make it so expensive that you don't even want to bother it anymore. You're starting to slowly see people starting to jump out of the gas vehicle as far as a new car. Starting to see more hybrid vehicles on the road. You're going to see a lot more of that. But they have to wean you off. One thing about the world, it has to be weaned off a thing. And this is something they have to slowly wean people off. But the best way of doing that is jack up the price of the product. Problem in America is we don't have enough power stations to even do that. That's why we're looking at a 2035 window. But as you pay attention, you're going to see more and more of these power stations popping up in different places. So as you see the building of that, they're really starting to rev up, pushing people to electric cars. I've got friends already who've already went electric because they just didn't want to deal with the gas. I say this, take your time. Don't let them rush you into this because those vehicles are still really expensive, even the hybrids. So you got to really take your time, and then they got to get some of those kinks out. You'll spend more time at a auto mechanic who really doesn't know how to work on some of that new technology than anything with some of these vehicles. So you got to be very careful and very patient. So don't rush. I would say a good way of for fuel economy, a lot of cars have the EcoBoost system on them, so that's already on your car. Fill up at half a tank. Don't let your car just go all the way down to nothing. Make sure you're filling up at half a tank because that's a lot cheaper than letting your car get down to E and then you try to fill it all the way up. So always fill it up at half a tank. Something my father taught me. So take this slowly. We want to get as close to 2035 as we can before we're pushed out of the gas vehicle. And think about gas prices will drop by then because there'll be so many people with electric vehicles. So gas is going to be a commodity you can afford if you still got a gas car. But by 2045, you're not going to see a gas car should be an antique by that time, by 2045. By that time that we hit those points. And my daughter, she'll be riding an electric vehicle. She'll probably have my gas car, which will be an antique. But a lot of these kids over the next 10 years, going into 2035, which you say 9 years away, they're going to really start moving to those electric cars. So by 2035, state of New Jersey, that has not been changed. You cannot sell a gas vehicle on your lot. Any new car, we mean new, not used, any new car that is sold has to be electric by 2035 in the state of New Jersey. And you'll see other states that have adopted their own policy. New York has this policy. So that's where we're going. But they got to get you out of that. So even with war, the chaos of war is to bring forth the new order of things. The new order is we're moving into these electric vehicles. How do we get people in electric vehicles? Let's fight over liquid gold, oil. Let's get people so sick of these battles about oil that they say, what the hell with them. We're just gonna buy electric cars so we don't have to spend all this money on gas, not knowing that's the trick anyway to move you towards the electric car. Iran does not want a nuclear weapon. We might hear talks of them talking about one, but it's more about nuclear fusion. Think about if you can power that whole region. Everybody has to come to you as the source of power. And we're not talking about source of power politically. We're talking about the source of power. You have the ability to power the whole region. Remember them times when Iran was having those strange earthquakes? It was killing a whole lot of people in certain provinces. They were working on a lot of this stuff for a long time. We don't know if they weren't down there messing with dark matter. We don't know some of the things that their scientists were doing, because remember, they were kidnapping those scientists. So we don't know some of the things with dark matter, because it's still this need to open up the portals. We talk about those hadron colliders and those portals. They're still messing with a lot of that stuff. So we don't know what Iran's role in this moving forward. We do know we're moving towards these new energy sources. Electric is the new energy source. We still need oil to power those charging stations, though. So still going to be a fight over that, as far as, who pumps out what to power those charging stations to keep their grids up and running. But you're going to see a lot more control over those grids, power sanctioning. You're going to see a lot of that stuff as we move over the next course of the next couple of years, pushing more and more people to these electric cars. So, as this war continues to move forward, there is a plan for it. There's a plan for it. We're talking about the fall of Jerusalem. The church now is on the forefront, the Catholic Church. And remember, old videos, we talked about Trump working for the Catholic Church. That's who he works for. He does not work for the Zionists. Zionists who believe that Trump works for them are fools. Trump works for the Catholic Church. And there are Catholic Zionists. Don't get it twisted. There are. Because Zionist is not a Jewish person. There are people who believe in that Israeli state. And you see a lot of those Christian Zionists. But they're fighting so the Christians control Jerusalem. And, they do it under the false pretense of helping the Jewish people. But no one has ever helped the Jewish people in that region. They've always ransacked Jerusalem and went from leader to leader to leader. That's always, this is the Zionist rule of Jerusalem. Remember, the Muslims ruled it for a long time, then the Zionists come in, then the Christians will actually get their first opportunity at ruling Jerusalem, which they never really have had a chance to do it. Now, since the time of the Romans, who weren't Christians, they believed in many gods at that time. So we're seeing that change in here. We're seeing the death of America, and we're talking about a death as far as a power where America is at the bottom of the totem pole. We're at the bottom of the pole. We're going to lose all sorts of respect. It's going to take us a long time to kind of climb out of the gutter. And we got to make something to survive, because it's about survival at the end of the day. So, the idea of military might, the Romans tried it. It doesn't work. The Germans tried it. It doesn't work. You have to have different ways of existing. The Chinese never tried it. The Chinese has tried different tactics of making themselves a force. The Iranians have been a force due to their culture, due to their belief systems. That's what's always kept the Persians alive, is their strong belief in self, their strong belief in unity. They can fight each other all day. Persians can fight each other all day. But at the end of the day, they still respect that they're Persians first, and we're not going to slaughter each other to gain anything. We got to squash them and stuff. So the Persians are always going to stick together, or find a way to stick together. Even the ones at this time who still are holding on to dreams. The Saudis' day is over. They know it's over. They're going to have to come into the game and kind of recreate themselves, and they are. The Saudis are doing a lot of different things as far as investing some of that oil money. Unfortunately, they've been investing too much in the petrodollar, thinking that they can outdo the Chinese, instead of just working with the Chinese and saying, hey, what can we do as a unit together in Asia to become powerful enough where we can start contributing to the world? That's what you want. But the gods of chaos don't want that. Some people just want to rule. We have these forces just want to rule, and when it becomes demonic, where demonic forces want to rule and dictate, and you got Pete Hegseth on there talking about murdering people and killing people, and his God, because it's not your God, his God is the God of war. He's praying to Mars and all these other people, and I just kill, smash, destroy. He's taking it back to Lost in Space with the crazy robot. But when you get these type of individuals, this is the fall of America, that America voted it in. That's why Trump had to be elected because he's the destroyer of America. It's kind of funny if you watch Ghostbusters, the original, where Zul tells them to pick the form of your destroyer, and they pick the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Just subliminally, he thinks about that because he thinks the person is safe, but the person is just as destructive. It's the same thing that happened to America, the New Babylon, where they picked Trump thinking that Trump was safe, but he's a destroyer. Trump was never safe. He was never safe. He is the trumpet. He's the 27, the Knights Commander. He's the person who saves Jerusalem. And I want y'all to think about that. He saves Jerusalem from the people that are there, because the people that are there are destroying Jerusalem. They're destroying Jerusalem. The Zionists have destroyed Jerusalem. They've made it where no one can worship. The Jews can't worship. The Christians can't worship. The Muslims can't worship. And Jerusalem is a place of worship, not a place for political and military power. It never was for that. Everybody came in with those ideas. The Romans came in. Everybody came in, brought that into Jerusalem. The Muslims were the first power, if you think about it. The Muslims were the first power that came into Jerusalem and respected Jerusalem for what it was. And look at the history. Everybody could worship. The Jews worship. The Western Wall never got knocked down during those periods. It fell, the temple itself fell during the war, but the wall never got knocked down. It stayed, and it had stayed there all that time. They lost a couple of temples, but for the most part, that wall stayed, and people were there to worship. The Muslims could worship. The Christians could worship. And they're trying to get back to that place. Haifa is one of those diverse places in Israel where everybody worships. So we're trying to get back to that sense in Jerusalem. But it has to be destroyed to build the third temple. And the third temple is a temple of power. But it has to be destroyed. And Trump, it's its destroyer. He's a destroyer. He's not there to keep it together. Netanyahu is the destroyer of Israel. That's why they brought Netanyahu back, because he's there to destroy Israel. He's a destroyer. He's not one to keep it together. Iran has always saved Israel through the history. The Persians were the ones who saved Israel from itself. And a lot of its destruction is due to itself and people that they allow to come into Jerusalem and destroy it. So that's why you saw Trump doing certain things early on. Trump put the embassy in Jerusalem. It was done for a reason, because they want Jerusalem back. They don't want Israel. They want Jerusalem back. And now the Christians bringing in the Pope. Now they see it. The Catholic Church see that Jerusalem is in their grasp. They just have to finish the game. And you're going to watch the Catholic Church now. They're going to make several moves over the next couple of months, going into the next year, that seal the fate of the Zionists. Watch some of the moves that they make where they seal the fate of the Zionists and box the Zionists in. That Epstein stuff is really going to hit, because a lot of secrets now are going to mysteriously be revealed, but because the Catholic Church has the secrets. So they're going to let a lot of this stuff out. There's going to be a lot of stuff on Trump. Trump will be impeached. Trump will be arrested. We talked about all this stuff years ago happening to this man. It's going to be some arrests. There's going to be some impeachments. It's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to see as we kind of go into this. And don't think that, these people who are doing this are not just as evil as Donald Trump. Some of them are even more evil. So, our job is to keep our faith strong. Keep our belief in the Creator strong, so when the creators do come, we're ready for war. This is not the war. The war we're fighting is a spiritual war. And when that time comes, for some of us, we must be sacrificed. We have to sacrifice ourselves to save the universe. That's a bigger event when the time comes. And you know who you are based on how you feel about things sometimes. So you know who you are. You know when the time comes, when it's going to be time for you to step up and do what you got to do to save the universe. But right now, we'll watch how this game plays out. There's so many different layers to this. And, one of the biggest layers, they got to get you out of that gas car. They got to get you ready for electric by 2035. That's the game plan. They're going to jack up these gas prices. They're going to make you not want to go to the pump. And when 2035 come, or before, for a lot of people, you're going to be purchasing these electric cars. They got to slowly manipulate you into the change. One thing about us, we're stubborn. So they manipulate us into the change. They've done it on several occasions. Mr. Mahdi Back Row Ministry, keep your head up, keep praying to the creators, and stay focused, stay on point.